Hi, this is a intro to a sensitive subject, an intro that's gonna be followed by several other videos. Um, that's my intentions anyway. It's a subject that is personal to me, of course, because I'm living it. I'm going to have this video come from the perspective of the male, of the grandfather. We took permanent custody of them at the age of a year and a half, and they're six now. So we've been going through this for a while, and I always thought that maybe it was just going to get easier as we learned and we grew together and stuff. And there are a lot of aspects that are coming along really well. But I've noticed that in the last couple of years, the last year for the most part, they start school and stuff. They're in first grade now. That it's not necessarily getting easier. Sometimes it feels like it's getting a lot harder because of the drama, from little girls. And I know if I was discussing this with my wife or other females, you're going to get different advice or different input. But what I'm looking for is, somebody out there, people out there, other guys who are going through this. Um, how basically the subject matter is really like how to cope with it, because there's days, man, when I go up to the office, because I simply have to get away from it. It's just the screaming and the them clawing at one another, and you can't you can't scream back at them because you get nowhere. Like there'll be little mischievous little things, getting away with this or hiding the remote, all kinds of different things. And it's real cute to them and like really irritating to me. Um, but then when you start trying to, you know, teach them, you find yourself really quickly like going down to their level. And that's the thing that I really want to get past is dropping down to their level, because it it resolves nothing, and then you're both screaming at one another. I mean, here's an adult, 63 years old, screaming at a 6-year-old. I mean, it's ridiculous. There's got to be other ways, and I don't go to, or I haven't contacted like a counselor or something like that, because my biggest fear is, you know, sitting in front of somebody that hasn't gone through the experience, like a 30-year-old, who's reciting things from a, excuse me, from you know, a book. If somebody gets involved out there in the YouTube world, that's great. Maybe you have some advice you can put in the comments and stuff. Maybe this is a forum that we could reach out and communicate together, because my wife and I are involved in this together, and we're pretty tight as a couple. But um, as you know, guys don't have maternal instincts, and we don't deal with things like a mother or a grandmother might do. It's the big thing is that they want attention, and I do things with them. I take them for bike rides, and which gives my wife a break, even if it's 20 minutes. But it's constant attention. Like the other day, like yesterday, I played hide and go seek with them in the house, 3 or 4 rounds of that. And then I'm like, okay, that's, I played, I did that with you guys. I gave you attention. I didn't say it like that, but the thing is that with 6-year-olds and probably 4-year-olds too, whatever. I don't know how long this is going to last until they're 8 or 10 or whatever, but it's never enough. They always want, oh, can we go on a bike ride now? Or can we do another couple rounds or whatever? And I just got back from Lowe's carrying a bunch of wood. I'm redoing a deck. So I got this project on my mind. And then, you know, and this, with me telling them, I'm tired now. I played, cut me some slack, and then they go off on a tangent, because that's just the way their little brains think, and they want the attention. I understand that, but how the hell do you you deal with this? How do you communicate these things with them? Because lately I found myself, you know, I don't like the responses that I've been giving them lately, you know. The yelling and the screaming. I grew up in a household with two brothers who it was so low key, you know. I mean, it was just the vibe was just like mellow. My dad was real quiet. My mom was my mom was is very loving and stuff, but she wasn't like um, you know, this outgoing type of you know, laughing and doing everything. When we ate dinner together, it was just this really like quiet, kind of peaceful vibe. And now I'm living in this household that's just like intense and crazy, you know. And there's times where I could sit there and I can watch them and they're running around in circles and screaming and stuff, you know. And I'm like, I'm going about my business and eat my supper or whatever, you know. 5:30, 6 o'clock is this what we call witching hour, where they just go ballistic. And I could deal with it. And then there's other days though that I don't deal with it, where I'm like, you know, it's like screaming and stuff. And this is what I have to prevent. I don't want them growing up um, with a grandfather or grandmother, for that matter, yelling and screaming at them all the time and stuff. I want just to communicate. Maybe that's asking too much at 6 years old. It's possible, and especially when there's two, because the sibling rivalry is intense. So anyway, this is supposed to be a short introduction to this, and I'm going to follow up, you know, on other videos, you know, where I might be explaining what happened one evening and stuff, and I did really well on it, or maybe I didn't do so well on it. You know, my refuge is my office, where I have a TV and my computer and stuff, and this is where I end up a lot of times. I don't have those Sunday mornings anymore, not really, because you know, as soon as they get up, they come running down the stairs and they're in front of the TV. Loud cartoons on a Sunday morning sometimes not that desirable for me. You know, so I end up either having coffee out on the deck, or I whatever it is I have to do, but I'm getting away from them. And sure, that's okay at times, but it seems like I'm doing it more. So anyway, if you're interested, subscribe to this channel, you know, the whole YouTube thing. Um, a- and maybe we'll get a dialogue going. Maybe there'll be some advice being tossed around, and people like you out there can learn, and hopefully I can learn too. And if not, if it's not a, you know, a popular subject or whatever, and there's not a lot of interest, it's fine, because these are going to be used by me as a as like a diary, an online diary. So if you're interested, subscribe and like it and stuff like that. And if you know somebody who's a grandparent going through this, let them know. Um, yeah, and we'll talk to you later. We'll see you on the next video for sure.